it off well. We all know the first few minutes of a sales engagement are critically important. First few minutes of a coaching engagement are important as well. What do you think should go into the first couple of minutes of a good opening?
The building rapport piece.
Okay, that building rapport piece. All right, genius. Ellen and the whole joiner mentality. That takes some time. Darren up here, asked about the ski trip and anybody break any legs, something like that, right? The building of rapport. The challenge is it has to be genuine or it's worse than not building any rapport, right?
Yep.
What else ought to happen in the first couple of minutes?
Kind of set the context for the discussion.
Okay, set the context for the discussion. Set the stage for what's coming. Good. Other things? Those seem to be the two main things in my mind. Maybe summarize, as part of that setting the context, summarize, prior conversations or what led to this, right? Anything else need to happen in the first couple of minutes?
Is that the part when I think it was it Darren that said you do this, well, but I want to talk about this?
I mean, that would be...
Did he do that in that? Would you consider to dissect it? Was that part of his opening?
Almost. Yeah, he didn't quite do that way.
Yeah.
No, he didn't do that.
Yeah, you're right on the edge of losing your genius thing. But, yeah.
That was effective.
Yeah. The way you laid it out, the problem with that, if it's laid out just that way, is it very much is one of those, you're just setting me up to knock me over. But you do want to summarize what I remember Darren saying. In fact, he did a pretty good job with it, was you'll remember we've talked before about, so this was a continuation of the conversation.
Oh, okay.
To get them set in the context again. Again, I think that it's similar to a sales opening, where when you get back into a sales meeting, you've met with the client before, you've got to summarize, get them back up to speed again, and then you lay out the agenda of the meeting.
I think when he started going through, you've sold a lot of AT, you've done a lot of good things. I think that's almost the next step, right? Kind of perception of what he was doing well and where we need to focus.
And it really leads into the dialogue then. You move pretty quickly. Let's see what we came up with, I think. That's it. Setting the stage, the rapport, the summary events reference previous coaching sessions, and then you state the purpose. Why are we meeting? And then once you state the purpose, here's the other thing that he did well, and I think a number of you did. I just got to listen into him. He stated the purpose, but then instead of directive saying, here's what I want you to do, it's so what we want to talk about is X. Tell me your perspective, right? So in this case, we want to talk about IPT in your approach to selling that, or what we need to do to get you better at that. Give me some perspective on where you're coming in. And he really transitioned in with the question, one of these leading questions. I was counting in the back of my mind up at this table how many good questions versus how many bad questions. And my criteria I used for good for bad was how many are open questions that take a dialogue response, and how many were yes/no questions. I think that's something that we intuitively know. Better coaches are going to ask more of the more open type questions, right? Rather than the binary, linear, let me control the process, I want to get a yes here or no here type question. But you're going to dive into questions, and that's where we're going to pick it up right after lunch here, is with this whole pulling perceptions and needs into the conversation. You'll pull from them, you'll share with them, you'll get the issue on the table as fully as it can be, so that when you get to the next step of dealing with obstacles to improve performance and coming up with solutions to move the ball forward, there aren't any surprises left. But where we start is, well, it's our medical analogy. You got to diagnose before you prescribe, right? In fact, that's the only rule of good coaching, is diagnosis must precede prescription. If you're telling them or even pulling from them the solution before you really fully understand the problem, the issue with that is might be the wrong solution. Right? So we got to pull perceptions and needs into the dialogue. And that's where I want us to start this afternoon. I'm behind the page now on page 221 in your three-ring binder. And actually I'm going to have you skip a couple pages, and we're going to go right to some background information on page 225, if you would please. Page 225. Give you a minute to read this on your own. All right, you got it? So, long-term relationship, but unfortunately a lot of the players have just changed, and this account, we don't know if it's at risk or not, but it's not as solid as it was before. Here's what I'd like you to do. First exercise we did this morning, I had you break up into different teams. We counted off 1s, 2s, 3s, and we sent a sales leader from this table to each one of those. Can you get back in those same teams again, whether you're a 1 or a 2 or a 3? And then get a flip chart pad and put it by your table, because I'm going to give you a team assignment to work on together. 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Yeah, right.
Morning, Chris, the water's good.
Back with you, Sal. Where are we?
You on my team?
I don't think so.
My bad.
Phil.
That doesn't feel good. Rejection. You get smoked again?
It's not a joiner, huh?
I'm getting excited.
Yeah, the anti-joiner.
Yeah.
Anti-joiner.
The challenger or whatever.
You can deal with rejection, though.
I can deal with it. I got a whole
This is the
team.
original thing, right?
Don't worry. No problem here.
The ones we did this morning. Okay.
I thought when you said the one,
I really do.
Because you laid
Really?
so I think you were over.
Oh, I was here. I'm gonna jump in.
All right? So you should have 4 or 5 people in your team. In fact, Rich, I think we lost one person, so why don't you back to that team? Here's your assignment. Yep, you're working together with the people at your table. Let's assume that you're going to have a coaching session with this AM or this SE, and you've read the background, so you know the situation. You're about to debrief that meeting with the new person at Global Energy. What do you want to talk about? And very pointedly, because we said good dialogue typically starts with good questions, what kind of questions do you want to ask your AM about his perception of that meeting? What I'd like you to capture on the sheets of flip chart paper are 6 to 8 questions that you think would be good to ask in this coaching session. You've left the sales meeting now. You're not talking to Global Energy anymore. You're talking to your direct report.
But we were in the same meeting.
You were in the same meeting. What 6 to 8 questions do you want to ask this person about where they need to be with this?
We need a flip chart.
Yeah, there's one sheet there that's left.